The Justice Department's investigation into former President Trump's handling of documents appears to be far from over. Just this week, the Trump legal team turned over even more materials with classified markings, along with a laptop. They also handed over an empty folder marked classified evening briefing. And joining us now is one of former President Trump's attorneys, Tim Parlatore. All right, to be clear, the former president has a lot of legal issues, but you specifically represent him in the special counsel's investigations into January 6th and Mar-a-Lago.
Yes.
All right, as you just heard, CNN and other outlets reporting that you handed over additional materials, pages with classified markings, a laptop, and a thumb drive over to investigators. Tim, Trump has been out of office for 2 years. Why do classified materials keep showing up?
You know, what has happened here that you've seen here and also in the Biden and Pence investigations is that the White House does not have proper procedures for handling classified information. And these documents, when they get packed up and sent out when people leave office, they do keep showing up, if you will. We conducted a search back in December, which is where we found these documents, and we turned them over immediately. These were not turned over last week, although the DOJ leaked it last week. This was turned over back in December. And so we have gone through, we've tried to work with the DOJ, we've tried to do searches of all the relevant places, and anytime we found anything, we've immediately turned it over.
And as we understand it, the laptop that was handed over, it had scanned copies of some of the pages that were handed over. We've learned that this laptop belonged to an aide from the Save America PAC. So why would someone from a PAC have access to classified materials?
She was working as an aide to the president, and this is a box that had all of his daily schedules from his time in office. And she scanned all of those as part of being available for future speeches or biographies or things like that. And after we did the search in December, and we found that within this box of thousands that there were a couple of pages that had a little marking at the bottom, which we turned over. After that, we found out that she had scanned the box so that it would be digitized. She had no idea that there was any classification markings on anything. And as soon as we found out about that, we called up DOJ to let them know and immediately provided them access to it.
Now, you also turned over an empty folder marked classified to investigators. Where was this folder and why was it turned over?
The folder is kind of one of the more humorous aspects of this whole thing. This is not a classified folder. This is a folder that when my team went through and searched and they wrote up their report, which we turned over to DOJ, they saw it's a folder, a manila folder that says classified evening summary on it. And it was in the president's bedroom. He has one of those landline telephones next to his bed, and it has a blue light on it, and it keeps him up at night. So he took the manila folder and he put it over it so that it would keep the light down so he could sleep at night. And it's just this folder. It says classified evening summary on it. It is not a classification marking. It's not anything that is controlled in any way. There's nothing illegal about it. There's nothing in it. And when DOJ found out about it, they went crazy. And they said they actually gave me a subpoena to say, give us over this empty folder that means nothing.
How did they find out about a folder on his bed table?
We put it in our report. When we did all of our searches, we wrote up reports on everywhere we searched, everywhere we looked, anything we found, where we found it. And we gave that to them because everything that we've done as part of that search has been in the spirit of full cooperation and compliance. And when they read that and they saw, oh, there's this folder here that is so far outside of the scope of the subpoena or anything else, they demanded it back. And so now the president has to find a different way to keep the blue light out of his lies.
I'm sure he has other options, but correct me if I'm wrong. There's also a similar folder on display at the Trump Tower bar. Yeah. He is under criminal investigation for potentially mishandling classified materials. I mean, doesn't the use of these folders suggest somewhat of a flippant attitude towards classified materials?
Not at all. Not at all. These are folders that he was given during his time in office. He didn't keep the contents of the folder, but the folder itself was interesting. So he did keep a copy, some of the folders. He put one on display at the 45 bar. He put one on his phone down in Mar-a-Lago. When we went through the boxes at the National Archives, we found a few more of them there. It's essentially a piece of stationery. It doesn't actually contain anything controlled or anything really that's a problem.
Well, he's obviously running for president. Again, you keep uncovering these classified documents outside of the settings in which they belong. What do you say to people who believe that he shouldn't be trusted with the nation's secrets?
Nothing that we have found has any implications on him personally. Everything that we have found has been consistent with what I've been saying from the beginning, which is the White House, across administrations, their handling of classified documents is not the same as how the intelligence agencies handle it or the military handles it. And so documents are not controlled in the White House across administrations. When people leave the White House and GSA packs everything up, they get mixed in, as we've seen with President Trump, with President Biden, with Vice President Pence. And really, what I say here is President Trump, this doesn't have anything to do with him. This has to do with White House procedures, which is one of the reasons why I say DOJ should get out of this, and they should instead do a review of what the procedures are in the White House and then legislate a change on how future White House administrations handle documents. Because that would solve the problem.
One big difference between your client and the other two folks that you mentioned is the fact that once this issue was raised, your client did not automatically make an effort to turn over everything. It's taken a while. Things are still being handed over. And it's not just potentially mishandling classified information. Your client is also under investigation for a possible obstruction.
I would disagree with that because...
That he's under investigation?
Well, no, not that, but that he didn't try to cooperate. From the beginning, he has tried to cooperate. In fact, he had a meeting with the members of DOJ where he said, if there's anything else you need, let us know. DOJ has taken a position of, really an adversarial position on this, where as much as we want to cooperate with them, they would rather make this into an adversarial fight and try to make it into a criminal case. Had they handled it appropriately from the beginning, agreed to work with us, work towards making sure that we just get the documents and everything is, put back into its place, this all would have been avoided. A lot of what you have here is an appearance of noncompliance, which is created by DOJ in the manner in which they have handled this.
Are you still searching for documents classified with classified markings?
Not at this time, no. We have completed our searches. We've given up our full reports to DOJ. They've seen everything. This latest leak from this past week is really from stuff that happened back in December.
And has the special counsel expressed any interest in speaking with your client?
Not to me.
If he did, if Jack Smith is interested in asking your client questions, would you allow him to do that?
I would certainly consider it, but I'd like to talk to Jack Smith himself first.
You haven't talked to Jack Smith yet?
No, but I'd like to.
Okay. Former Vice President Mike Pence, as you know, was recently subpoenaed in the January 6th investigation. Do you expect to assert privilege to block some of that testimony?
So, as with any witness that goes before the grand jury, we have been instructing them to preserve the privilege. So any question that they're asked that doesn't call for a privileged answer, they should answer. Any question that they're asked that calls for something that is protected by privilege, either executive, attorney-client, or otherwise, they should assert that privilege at that time. They don't give us a list of questions ahead of time. They assert the privilege, and then after they're done testifying, then it's up to DOJ to decide whether they want to file a motion to compel or not. And so really, all we know is they want to bring people in, and if they're not going to give us a list of questions so that we can figure it out exactly, we tell them, okay, assert privilege to everything, because the reality is you don't want to create a precedent where DOJ can just run roughshod over the privilege because it's a new administration. So we instruct them, they assert, and then DOJ decides whether they want to file a motion to compel.
So it sounds like you will likely assert privilege over the Mike Pence testimony.
Every witness that goes into the grand jury that has information that's potentially privileged, we tell them to assert the privilege.
And that would also apply to Robert O'Brien, the former National Security Advisor.
Every witness that goes in.
And then, as you saw this week, one additional classified document was found during a search of former Vice President Mike Pence's house. Do you think a special counsel should be appointed to look into his case?
I don't. I don't think that there should be special counsels appointed to look at any classified document cases. I think that that is a business that DOJ needs to be put on the bench for, and instead the Office of the Director of National Intelligence should get into it, and they should do an administrative classified document spillage investigation. They should provide, to all former residents of the White House, they should provide them all amnesty. That way they can get full cooperation from everybody and figure out really what is going on with the White House document handling procedures so that they can fix it. When you have DOJ go into these things, they are automatically going in with all the criminal processes and trying to threaten people to go to jail over something that really is a procedural failure and an institutional procedural failure that has nothing to do with Mike Pence, Donald Trump, or quite frankly, Joe Biden.
All right, we have to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate clearly a lot to talk about.
Thank you for having me.